Hey guys, Steve from Valor Replicas with a show and tell of a unique project that I made. I was a child of the 80s, which means I grew up at a time where we were constantly in fear of the US and the Soviet Union launching nuclear weapons at each other. And growing up at that time in the Cold War was unsettling to be a kid, but at the same time I'm still sort of fascinated with that time frame and with artifacts of the Cold War. And I'm not alone. I was commissioned by a customer to build a replica of this. So this is one of the launch switches that you would find in an underground bunker to launch a nuclear missile toward our enemies. And you've seen this in movies. Deep underground in a bunker, there's two soldiers and they're both in front of a console. Each one of them would have two of these switches in front of them. And when an order would come in from the president to launch the missiles, they would have to enter in a bunch of secret codes, and then they would both reach out and have to turn these four switches at the same time to launch the missiles. It was meant to be a failsafe, so no one person could launch the missiles by themselves. The official name for that switch is a CLS, which is a cooperative launch switch, meaning that they would all work together to launch missiles to end the world. Now, at the beginning, I thought this will be pretty straightforward. All I got to do is find this kind of vintagey black bakelite knob, and then build this outer faceplate. And I thought this knob would be, something similar that might be used on an old radio or an old guitar amp. So I spent days and weeks looking on eBay and looking for something that looked identical to this black knob with this arrow, and I kept coming up empty. Until one night, I was able to purchase this on eBay. So this is not only the knob, it is the entire switch assembly, and it is the exact switch assembly that would have been in that nuclear launch panel. And I love this thing. Like, this switch is a piece of art on its own. It's totally of a time. And what I have found out is they still use these switches currently in those facilities because they're non-digital and they just work. It's a beautiful object, and it's got a great snap and a chunk to it. So finding this, I realized that I'm not just making a replica. I have the ability now to kind of make something that is very, very close to almost a historic replica of the actual thing. And once I had the actual switch, all I had to do was create the panel to mount it to. And the finished product looks like this. So I was able to create out of 1/8 inch aluminum, this metal panel based off of the design that I was seeing online. So this is all engraved out of metal. I was even able to include the actual asset tag, the military asset tag that's on there. And again, because I think the switch is a work of art, I've mounted it in this acrylic stand so that you can appreciate the switch itself along with the actual front face of it. I even went so far as to make sure that I spec'd all of the correct knobs and screws so that it was, again, it feels like a historical artifact more than a typical prop replica that I do. And the switch is really interesting. It takes real force to move this into the launch position. At any point, it's going to go back until you fully commit to that and you hear a satisfying ka-chonk. So yes, World War III would begin with a ka-chonk. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. See you next time.
3.
Put your hand on the keys,
2,
sir.
1. Launch.
Sir, we are at launch. Turn your keys.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Turn your keys, sir.